A caller was raising this, and I wondered if I could raise it with you about, you have this book, Answering Atheism, and the question is, well, why not answer agnosticism? And so what's the difference there, and do they require different answers?
They require different answers, but for example, in my book, Answering Atheism, I think I answer both atheists and agnostics. It's important to define the two terms, and I know there's going to be atheists who disagree with me about the meaning of these terms, but I'm pretty sure that I have them understood, or at least how they're classically understood in the history of philosophy. Basically, I put the terms this way. They go to the question, does God exist? And you can answer that in three ways. Yes, no, or I don't know. If you say yes, you're a theist. If you say no, God does not exist, or there is no God, classically that's what an atheist is. If you say, I don't know if God exists, or maybe God exists, then you would be an agnostic. So with my book, Answering Atheism, the first part of the book tackles the people who would say, here's a reason to think God does not exist. That would be atheists. The second half of Answering Atheism is for agnostics who say, fine, maybe there is a God, but I've seen no evidence for God. So the second half of Answering Atheism, I put forward arguments for God. So for a classical atheist, you would have to answer his arguments against God. For a classical agnostic, you'd give him reasons to believe in God. Nowadays, I think a lot of atheists try to define atheism in terms of belief. Atheists just don't believe in God. Well, agnostics don't believe in God either. So the difference is, what they'll say is, well, atheism is about belief and agnosticism is about knowledge. Agnosis, without knowledge. I'm an atheist, I don't lack a belief in God, but I'm not saying that I know that there is no God. But that's just not what the terms refer to. Agnosticism is suspending judgment. You're just saying maybe there's a God, I don't know. So they say that you could be, and I've heard these terms before, agnostic atheist and Gnostic atheist. That an agnostic atheist lacks belief but doesn't have knowledge that there is no God, whereas a Gnostic atheist lacks belief, and yet a Gnostic one lacks belief, and he knows there is no God. I know it's confusing, but for me, these definitions, when I hear atheists put them forward, they confuse the difference between knowledge and belief. Knowledge and belief are not just two separate things. Belief is inside of knowledge. So I put this in front of my microphone, but for our friends looking on Facebook, I've made a visual aid with my hands. If you can imagine, belief is a circle, knowledge is a wider circle. So knowledge is just justified true belief. It's a basic definition. So you say you know something means it's a belief that's true and you have a good reason to think it's true. A belief is just a mental state in your mind. So an agnostic atheist, to me, sounds like someone who has a mental state about God, but no good reasons for that mental state. I don't want to be an agnostic atheist. If you're an atheist who says there's no good reason to believe in God, where are your reasons that there are no good reasons? What's wrong with the arguments for God? Let's talk about that. If you just say there are no good reasons, well, that's just an assertion. And as Christopher Hitchens, the late atheist, once said, that which is asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. So someone who just says there's no good evidence for God, if that's all he says, that can be dismissed. He has to give me a reason to think that that's the case.
That was like jujitsu.